Hey guys, Trent here with RC Journey. I wanted to finish this build on the WPL B-1. Now when I left you guys in the last video, we were looking at the front axle. I got that mounted up. Now you can put this drag bar on top or bottom, but if you put it on top, like I showed in the last video, you will need a longer screw to go down. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it how the instructions say. So we are ready to mount the axles, and you can't really see, but there is some electrical tape on there, and so basically all that does is just keep them together, and there's a crack going all the way across it, so it helps keep the dust out. So that's just something I do. And then I told you guys to take the transmission apart so you can see your gear mesh when you slide that motor in, so you're not damaging any other gears. So I just wanted to show you guys I took 3 screws off, slid it aside. It won't come off, but slid it aside, and gear mesh is perfect. There's plenty of grease in there. So I will put the transmission back together. I'll get it all mounted up, and then we will start putting the front and rear axles in. Alright, so you guys can see down in there, transmission is mounted. Servo is mounted. Horn is mounted. Now I left 3 holes on the horn so the steering horn won't slap against the front axle, and then drilled the hole out. So it's a little FYI for you guys. Now first thing I do when I'm doing a front axle is hook it in and then lay them down, and then you just put 2 screws there. Now before you put your screws in, make sure you connect the drive shafts. So then when you get done, that's what it'll look like. And same thing for the rear, basically. Hook the rear in, connect the drive shaft. May need to turn it a little bit, and then plop your 2 screws down. Number 1 screws builds most of this truck, and then your number 3 screws is for the axle assembly, and then your number 2 screws will be for the bed, 2 in the bed, and then to hold your tires on. So front's mounted up, and then the rear's mounted up, drive shafts hooked up. Now you may notice if your drive shafts are smacking, see if I can get a bird's eye view. If your drive shafts are smacking, you may need to take this back off and trim this drive shaft down some, so it has a little more play. Because essentially that's what you want. You want about that much, so when it flexes and does everything it needs to do, it's not smacking against the transmission housing or the drive shaft. So then the front battery tray just sits right down, and then you can see where you put your 2 number 1 screws down in there. And just a quick note, when you're shoving your receiver and your speed controller in there, make sure it's not in the way of your servo horn. Make sure that's free to move on top. Make sure you don't pinch any wires coming down the frame, and that's a good time to also take your battery wire and poke it up through that hole. So I'm just doing the build video. I was going to run through real quick and assemble this thing for you guys, and then next I'll do a running video. So now we're going to go ahead and do the bed. So grab two number 2 screws, and you can basically kind of guide it into place, and it won't slide forward, back, or left or right, and the center of it matches perfectly up with your tire. You look in the bottom, your screw holes line up, and then put your two screws in there. So this is what it should look like by the time we're done. And there we are. She is in all her glory. Now the next phase, we're going to go ahead and mount the gas tanks and the tires. Now the gas tanks are 2 number 1 screws, and then the tires are 1 number 2 screw each. And then when you're done, she should end up looking like that. So then when you're done, should end up looking something like this. And there she is. Now, if that drive shaft angle seems extreme, well, it would also be right there, and I don't know if you can tell in video, but this angle is not as extreme because I built those spacers and clocked the axle forward. It would normally be about right there, and now it's there, which is why that gap is so small, and you may only need to trim that down about 1/16 of an inch. Go in small increments first. You don't want to trim it down too much. So then next, I'm going to go ahead and mount up our bumper. 2 screws, number 1 screws, and then slide the cab in and lower it down with 2 number 1 screws as well. So after about a couple cups of coffee and 15 to 20 minutes of looking for parts, and that of course don't include going through and painting it all first in the chassis and doing your detail work. So a good hour, and then finally you will have a pretty good looking product for only spending about $30 to $35. You throw in $7 speed controller, $25 fly sky transmitter and receiver, $7 2-cell LiPo battery, and you're good to go. So went ahead and did the windshield already, painted the bottom of it black. Got a little bit more detail work to go, and then we will be having a running video. Whoever's in the passenger side left their window down. So thank you guys for watching. I do hope this was an easy build with you as well. She is a lot bouncy without that other set of leaf springs in there, so you should get more flex. Now be careful if you carry weight in the back. These leaf springs do pop and then break pretty easily. I mean, it can break, just let it fall off the couch, and a fall like that, next thing you know, something's broke. So I like these products. They're cheap, but they are fun, and they are worth building and handing down to a nephew or a little daughter or a little son. So hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I do. 6x6 is on the way, and then I will be building up the WPL C24 next. So thank you guys for watching. As always, push that like button, subscribe, that helps me out a lot, and I'll see you next video.